we're the only organization in our region, okay, which stretches back from like Orangeville down to Mississauga border, the Toronto border, down to the lake, and probably down to St. Catharines and out to Kitchener, Cambridge, out that end. So we've got a big territory, and I have two people working that. I have two counseling staff to deal with all the people. Like when you look at 1 in 100, and if our catchment area is over 4 million, do the math, folks. Okay, I've got two people, one working with adults and seniors, one working with youth and children, and then there's families involved. Depending on who in the family has epilepsy, we'll either deal with it with the young or we deal with the adult. It's not easy, but we're doing it. We're trying to do it. We're trying to keep it going. So yeah, we that huge area, that huge catchment area, we're the only people that will actually work with, talk to, help out, coach, listen to people who have been diagnosed with the disease called epilepsy. So yeah, we are important. We don't have three in our area, three different organizations. We're the only organization dealing with epilepsy in our catchment area.
I think that having organizations such as Epilepsy South Central Ontario are really important so that people struggling with epilepsy have access to places where we can receive support and different types of support. I know that there are a variety of organizations out there to support us, but people with epilepsy aren't always aware that these places exist. So the more places there are, the more likely we are to realize that there is support out there for us.
I think Epilepsy South Central Ontario is valuable because it made me understand my condition better. Because I was diagnosed at a very young age, or not even officially diagnosed, but I had seizures from a very young age, and it was still like very new. And as a kid, you don't really know the world yet, so it's very important to me to really learn what it is, or at least get an idea of what it is. Especially with the 90 days camp that I attended when I was younger, I was like, oh, so it's not just me that has it. There are other people. So that was really important to me, especially growing as an adult. I can now explain to my, like, I don't know, friends or coworkers, like, hey, I have this condition. You don't have to worry about it. But if this happens, this is what you can do. So it's been valuable for me to learn more about it for myself and for other people in case I do end up having a seizure in front of them or in front of somebody who maybe I'm not like the closest with, like a friend. But it gives me an idea of like, okay, this is what happened. Don't worry about it because I know, like for myself, like if it was bad, I'd be like, okay, I'm like, excuse me, I have to go, or I'm okay. Don't worry about it. Everything's okay.
In whole, I really appreciate Epilepsy South Central. I appreciate all of the workers. I appreciate that they really truly understand every single epilepsy warrior. And I believe that they have put all of their work to put together events, put together trying their best to get funding, which they should be, and they've always talked to epilepsy warriors and heard their stories, and they've done a great job. So I'm in a group called YEP, and it's a support group that basically has all of the epilepsy members, and basically we all talk, and we share our feelings, and Carly is very supportive, and she also understands how we feel, and also it makes us feel like we are very welcome into Epilepsy South Central.
I think agencies are advocates for people to increase awareness of epilepsy. And I mean, when you're walking down the street, all of a sudden you can see it amongst the coffee shops and go, oh, that's interesting. Maybe how can I get involved if you're interested in possibly getting involved in some community activity instead of it being hidden or done behind the scenes or at home. I mean, there's no better advertising or increasing awareness than having it on the street. I think it's a great location, and I think it's a great organization.
It helps to raise the awareness, and I think for us, like, it's the having access to like resources and supports where we need it. Yeah, like our friend's wife has it, like, but it wasn't talked about. Nobody just goes around and says, "Oh, hello, I have epilepsy." Well, except me and talking about Jordan, but not everyone feels that comfortable. And so how can we create like a space and a place and a group of people so that there is space for it?
We kind of treat it like it
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because there's no answer.
Or there's a stigma towards that, right?
Yeah.
I think they're valuable because they're providing an opportunity for individuals with epilepsy to get the support that they deserve, and they're trying to get the word out with the lack of education that some people have with epilepsy and the stigma that goes with it. So the value that they bring is much more than just being an organization for individuals with epilepsy.
Well, I'm just going to talk from personal experience, but when my son got diagnosed, I didn't know anyone with epilepsy, or at least no one that was vocal about it. I didn't understand that there was more than 2 kinds of seizures. I barely knew anything. And your doctor, they give you a diagnosis, they give you a medication, they don't fill in those gaps. So Epilepsy South Central Ontario helped find a community where I got to talk with other parents going through these things, where I got to gain that knowledge, where I feel supported as a parent to a child with epilepsy, and my son feels supported as someone who has epilepsy. And it's such a valuable resource in our community.
It's important for agencies like Epilepsy South Central Ontario to exist, because when you're first diagnosed with epilepsy, you feel like you have no one to reach out to. You're not even sure if anyone you know has even had epilepsy before. So this was one of the first places that I was referred to give me insight and knowledge and support about everything that I pretty much would need to know going forward. Without agencies like this, I think a lot of people would be lost. They wouldn't know who to talk to or what to do. When it came to teaching and training my daughter's teachers on how to recognize her seizures and how to respond to them, it wasn't something that I felt comfortable doing myself because her diagnosis was still very new to even me. So I was very thankful to have this agency to be there to support in her transition to school. And even when she transitions from kindergarten to grade 1 and then grade 2, it's going to be a service that I'm going to need and use and be very thankful for going forward for her whole life.
It was a huge support because sometimes you need to talk to somebody or you need to find help from somebody who understands the challenges of people living with epilepsy, not just a therapist in general, for example. And, you know, they just understand epilepsy in such different aspects. Like if I had somebody in my family that was going through a challenge because they saw me had a seizure, I could direct them to them.
I think that these agencies such as Epilepsy South Central Ontario are important for the community because we here in Port Credit specifically are a community. It's not some giant suburb of the GTA, and so we have the business association, we have events throughout the year, and I think that it helps to have that community spirit when it comes to something like this where you're relying on the kindness of others.
I think it's valuable because parents that support their children with epilepsy, it's valuable to them, even though they have their princesses and princes, that's valuable to them, just like a queen is valuable to us. And maybe we'll take...
Yeah, we'll do it again, but it most likely won't pick it up, but it's just distracting. But yeah, you're doing well. It's just, and actually the questions do get a little bit easier. But basically, there's no wrong answer because essentially you're just sort of like, why do you like? You could even say things like it's valuable because you know, if you're someone living with epilepsy, you're meeting others. Like, you know, if you go to Carly's Youth Empowerment Program, you're meeting other people in your age bracket that you're like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one here. You know, it's like this, you know, in the sense of you're meeting people or you maybe felt a certain way prior and now you're feeling this way, you know, so.
Okay.
I think South Central Ontario is absolutely beneficial because everything always, in my opinion, seemed to be happening in okay, honestly, Trev, cancel it.
Yeah, in those situations, you need to just pause.
I know, but just fucking delete that one.
Epilepsy South Central Ontario is valuable to the community because individuals and families are looking for support. They're looking for answers. They're looking for just to know that other people are going through what they're going through and that they will get through it. We do collect together. We support one another. We share our stories and we just take comfort in knowing that we're not going through this alone.
Because this is where we can have a safe space. This is where we can talk and feel valued. There's not enough places like Southern Epilepsy Ontario where we can express how we feel about epilepsy and not be scared to say how we feel, what we deal with, and how epilepsy doesn't do well with our mental health. So we need places to feel safe, and we need a place to feel valued. And it's great that we have Epilepsy South Ontario.
Well, I guess all the support groups, you know, out there, they work for individual, you know, problems and medical condition for other medical conditions. And I find this is the one that I personally support because this is the one that I have started my journey with my daughter. And I find these individuals put so much effort and personal, I would say, passion and companionship with their individuals. To me, I find that they are probably a lot more compassionate about what they do. And I literally never had any problems, or they always are very, very helpful.
I think Epilepsy South Central Ontario is so important. I don't know what we would have done without this organization. We got our diagnosis for our son. We were prescribed medicine, we were sent home, and we didn't know who to turn to. We actually weren't even told about Epilepsy South Central Ontario. Unfortunately, we had to find this organization ourselves. And once we found ESCO, we felt not alone. Our son was in grade 1, so we were dealing with the school system. We were dealing with the healthcare system, and you don't realize how complicated and confusing that is until you're in this realm. So Epilepsy South Central Ontario, they helped us find our way. They helped us gain that confidence that we could navigate, and we could advocate for our son. I think it was really important for education, for community, and confidence.
I think it's ridiculous. I think things being the third most common, you're up in the list. You're clearly a very common problem. You're something that happens very frequently. And so, Beethoven had it, Prince had it, lots of people had it. And so you need to understand that it's not just anything, it is something. And it's something that the government needs to understand and take notice of.